Good evening. Welcome to August special meeting, August 15th for the Zoning Board of Adjustments. It is 6:01 p.m. We would like to call this meeting to order. We have a quorum of 5 members, and we will have our agenda format will be a call to public hearing to order. We will have the purpose of the hearing, a staff report. We will have an applicant presentation. Then we will have persons wishing to speak for or against. Then we will have staff and commission and applicant discussion. And then we will move into consideration and possible action. So we'd like to start the meeting with the approval of minutes from August 1st, 2024. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for August 1st, 2024?
Make a motion to approve ZBA meeting minutes from August 1st, 2024.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been motioned and second. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, raise your hand. Minutes are approved for August 1st, 2024, 5-0. We'd like to move into our regular agenda. Consideration and possible action, VARZ 24-16, change in non-conforming status for the resumption of a previous abandoned non-conforming use. This is a request by Nate Pierre, applicant and owner, for approval for a change in non-conforming status as permitted by the Unified Development Code, ordinance number 2000-T, to allow for the resumption of a non-conforming use previously abandoned. This has a general location of 2223 North San Antonio Avenue, Pearland, Texas. You have a staff report?
We do. Thank you, Chair. Let me introduce Patrick Bauer to provide the staff report.
Thank you, Katja. So as mentioned, this is a request for a change in non-conforming status, and it's specifically to allow for the previous 3-dwelling family unit use to be resumed on the site when it has been abandoned. So the kind of little background on the use, it is actually classified under the dwelling multifamily use. It doesn't have its own separate use, so it's classified under that use, and that use is actually not permitted within the zoning of the district, which is the Old Town Residential District. And kind of as we go through the site history, it'll kind of shed light on why this use is not permitted now, but why it's there. And so the use has been abandoned on the site for more than 6 months, and the UDC requires that when a use has been abandoned, that you either bring the site into conformance with a permitted use, or an applicant has the option to request to the board for a change in non-conforming status for a use that was previously abandoned to be resumed on the site, or the usage is resumption in there, but essentially means being resumed on the site. And so to date, staff received one phone call from a local property owner asking for more information about the request. And kind of looking at the zoning of the property as well as the surrounding properties, you see that it is completely the Old Town Residential Zoning District. And here's an aerial of the property, and we can see the surrounding uses are that it's surrounded on all sides by these single-family residences. And so a little history on the site. It was originally annexed into the city in 1959. Then it was developed with the existing structures in 1983. And the property was at that time in 1983 and up until 2006 within the multifamily zoning district. And it wasn't until 2006 that the zoning changed and the Old Town area zoning was created, which included 3 different zonings, but specifically this property was changed to the Old Town Residential Zoning District, which then did not permit the multifamily dwelling use. And here we get a view of the subject property from North San Antonio Avenue, and you can see those existing structures on the site. And here we also get a look at a survey of the property showing the existing structures, how they sit on the site today. And so looking at the criteria for approval of a change in non-conforming status, staff found that the request met all of the criteria for approval of a change in non-conforming status. And so the applicant's intent is to resume the use that was previously on the site, not to intensify it in any way. I mean, they're also proposing to make cosmetic improvements so that they're able to be occupied by essentially renters in the future. I believe, and that maybe applicant can shed more light on who will be in those units. Additionally, it should also be noted that with the site history, the use was permitted previously on the site whenever the zoning was the multifamily zoning district in the past, and it wasn't until 2006 when the zoning changed that that use became a non-conforming use at that time. Now, as mentioned, it's a non-conforming use today. And so therefore, based on the analysis, staff recommends approval of the requested change in non-conforming status to allow for the previous use to be resumed on the site. And that concludes staff's report.
Thank you so much. Do you have an applicant presentation? Yes, sir. If you would, please go to the podium and state your name and address.
Can y'all hear me okay? Oh,
Yes, sir.
okay, that's really loud, sorry. My name is Nate Pierre, and my personal address? Or
Yes.
this address? 18833 Town Ridge Lane, it's in Webster, Texas, 77590.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead with your presentation.
Oh, I apologize, I just thought you wanted to know if I was present. Sorry, I don't really have a presentation or anything. I reached out, I want to say yesterday morning, to see if I needed to be here, and they said that y'all might have some questions for me, so.
Okay. Okay. We have any person wishing to speak for or against proposal? Yes, ma'am. If you would, go to the podium and state your name and address. And have you filled out a yellow card? Okay. Yes, we would get you a yellow card. Okay, thank you. Yes, and would you state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Candy Brantley, 2218 North San Antonio. I'm opposed because he's already not taken care of the property. He doesn't mow the grass. Trash is blown everywhere in my yard. There's trash all piled by the building. He doesn't take care of that. So then he's going to bring these families in, and it's going to continue to look like that. I mean, if he's not going to take care of it while he's working on it, I know if you're working on it, you've got some construction inside. I'm talking about the grass, the garbage outside. It was blown all over my yard. He tried to tell me it wasn't from him. Well, there wasn't anybody else working over there when he was over there demolishing it and doing whatever he was doing inside. It was only from his place. So in my opinion, it's only going to get worse. We have a fairly nice little community there, and then you start renting it to 2 or 3, 4 families all in one location there. What's that going to do to us in our neighborhood?
Okay, thank you, ma'am. And if fill that out, and if you give that back to, okay, any persons wishing to speak for or against proposal? We'd like to move into staff and applicant and commission discussion. Any questions or comments from the board to the staff or the applicant?
This would be a question for staff. Patrick, in your presentation, that means it's been since 2006 when this was approved for multifamily. Is that right? Did I understand correctly?
That's when the zoning changed. That would have made it a non-conforming use on the site. Prior to 2006, it would have been seen as a permitted use because it was in the multifamily zoning district, the subject property. But in 2006, when the zoning changed, while the use may have still been on the property, it would have changed to a non-conforming use at that time.
So this picture you have up here, this is single-family residences for everybody else. That's all zoned today as multifamily?
Today, it's Old Town Residential, which it does allow some properties to go up to duplexes. We've seen duplexes within Old Town Residential, but going above duplexes actually requires additional permits.
Okay.
But multifamily is actually, like, to put an apartment in this area, you wouldn't be allowed to have an apartment that's larger. I believe maybe quadruplexes may be allowed with a conditional use permit by council, but anything else, such as more dwellings, would be a use that wouldn't be permitted by right. And I believe even like your bigger apartments, like more than 4 dwellings, would be something that wouldn't be permitted at all within the zoning district.
What did the language of a Well, I forgot exactly how you worded it, but the concept was that some zoning opportunity was abandoned. What does abandoned mean?
Yeah, and so abandoned or vacant means that the use is essentially off the site, or let's say your utility. If your utilities aren't on the site, that would mean that it's not a habitable space. So let's say utilities are off for more than 6 months. It means that this is a space that's not being habited anymore. And at that point, even if it's whether it's a non-residential or residential use, we would consider it to be vacant or abandoned at that point. And that's when you need to bring the site either into compliance, or there is this option, which essentially another form of like a exception that the board can hear to allow for it to go back on the site. But you can either bring then the site into compliance at that point, or they could request this change in non-conforming status from the board.
Thank you.
I have a question for staff. As far as, needless to say, we're going to go from a single dwelling area to multifamily, which is going to increase our traffic 3 to 4 times as much. So in the aspect of traffic, since we're allowing a multifamily facility back, I guess would be a good way to say it, is there anything that falls in development as far as additional parking? Is there going to be a traffic impact study done by the applicant to figure out if this is going to hurt the roads, so on and so forth? So any thoughts?
Yeah, so the site would still have to provide parking spaces. And so essentially for each dwelling, you need to provide 2 parking spaces within the property. So the driveway needs to be large enough to meet those, and those would be separate from what the board's hearing tonight. They will still have to meet those requirements, and if they can't, they'll have to, essentially, they have to meet them. They're not requesting a reduction to that. In terms of the TIA, that would be something that would be under engineering's purview. I'm not sure if 3 dwellings would really, typically with TIA, like a traffic impact analysis, it's like a commercial property or like apartments or like larger subdivisions that create heavily trafficked areas, like getting hundreds of trips. With the number of cars and then a number of actual dwellings that are on the property, it likely wouldn't trigger the need for a TIA to be completed. But it's something that the board, if that's something that you wanted to have included, that could be something that they have to look into and make sure that they comply with any of engineering's requirements.
Another thought on this is, I know in the picture you have before us, we have single dwelling on each side of the property in question. Where's the next multi-purpose dwelling? What's the next closest one to it, if you know that answer? Multifamily.
I don't know the exact use right here, but you can see there's this property right here kind of has a break, and you'll see there's fencing and there's a break in between. I believe these 2 lots here are duplexes, which is that's a permitted by right lot, by right use. And so these may be duplexes right here. You don't see very many like three dwelling family unit is kind of a weird thing to see often within this area. Oftentimes you either see a quadruplex, which I'm not sure if there's any in this area. I know they're maybe closer to like Broadway. I know of one that I can think of close to Broadway and Austin Avenue. But mostly this area is mostly your single family residences with like a couple of duplexes here and there.
But also, if you were to zoom out just slightly on the image that's on the screen, right at the northwest corner of Plum and North San Antonio, there's a set of attached townhomes. Attached townhomes.
And I understand what you're saying regarding that and the duplexes. My thought is, and this is just me, if I was their neighbor, I know I'm not going to enjoy the traffic that this is going to produce, and the mess of getting the vehicle that's closest to the house out in the morning when 3 other vehicles are behind it, because they're going to have to stair step behind them. It's only 2 lanes wide. So if you got 6 vehicles, realistically, it's going to create a traffic jam for the neighbors, and I know I wouldn't appreciate that. But the duplexes, as well as the townhomes you're referring, they have their own driveway. I feel for the applicant, but I also am looking at the use of the land. Is it the best use of that land? You know, duplex, no problem. I just have a problem with 3.
Correct me if I'm wrong, they are required to update or upgrade their parking to meet the standards, correct?
If it didn't provide for essentially,
If it did
if you want to
not,
say
so-
six spaces weren't provided within the property, they can't be outside of the property.
It's unlikely that
Yeah.
you would approve stacking as Todd mentioned. For parking.
In terms of the
Yeah, it's unlikely that the city would approve stacking vehicles for parking to create a traffic jam.
The Old Town District is actually fairly unique in that it recognizes that Old Town has some limited spacing to it. It is one of the few areas that allows for parallel may not be the best word there, but stacking of vehicles on the lot for parking.
They're legal parking spaces though, correct?
They're legal within the Old Town District,
So,
which is where this is.
thank you.
Mr. Pierre, how long have you owned this particular property? Yes, yes, sir. I'm sorry, I should have asked you to go up there.
It's been about a month and a half.
Month and a half?
Yes, sir. We closed on June 25th, I believe.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments from the board? All right, we'd like to move into consideration and possible action. Would you read the?
Yes. I make a motion to approve variance 24-16 as presented.
It's been motioned. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and second. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, raise your hand. Motion is denied 3-2. In the board, you have to have at least 4-1 or 5-0 to get a favorable vote. So this vote was actually denied. We would like to adjourn this meeting for August 15th. It is 6:18 p.m.